Each stream, I do like to read from this book, The Creative Act by Rubin. Yeah, thanks for stopping, Joannis. See you around next time. The name of this section is called Intention. An old man in Calcutta would walk to get water from a well every day. He'd carry a clay pot and lower it by hand slowly all the way down, careful not to let it hit the sides of the well and break. Once it was full, he'd raise the pot slowly and carefully. It was a focused, time-consuming act. One day, a traveler noticed the old man engaged in this difficult task. More experienced with mechanics, he showed the old man how to use a pulley system. This will allow the pot to go down quickly, then fill it with water and come back up without hitting the sides. It's much easier, and the pot will be just as full with less work. The old man looked at him and said, "I think I'm going to keep doing it the way I always have. I really have to think about each movement, and there's a great deal of care that goes into doing it right. I'd imagine if I were to use the pulley, it would become easy, and I might even start thinking about something else while doing it. If I put so little time and care into it, what might the water taste like? It couldn't possibly taste as good." Our thoughts, feelings, processes, and unconscious beliefs have an energy that is hidden in the work. This unseen, unmeasurable force gives each piece its magnetism. A completed project is only made up of our intention and our experiments around it. Remove attention, and all that's left is the ornamental shell. Though the artist may have a number of goals and motivations, there is only one intention. This is the grand gesture of the work. It is not an exercise of thought, a goal to be set, or a means of commodification. It is a truth that lives inside you. Through your living it, that truth becomes embedded in the work. If the work doesn't represent who you are and what you're living, how can it hold an energetic charge? An intention is more than a conscious purpose. It's the congruence of that purpose. It requires an alignment of all aspects of oneself, of conscious thought and unconscious beliefs, of capabilities and commitment, of actions when working and not. It's a state of living in harmonic agreement with oneself. Not all projects take time, but they do take a lifetime. In calligraphy, the work is created in one movement of the brush, and all the intention is in that single concentrated movement. The line is a reflection of the energy transfer from the artist's being, including the entire history of their experiences, thoughts, and apprehensions into the hand. The creative energy exists in the journey to the making, not in the act of constructing. Our work embodies a higher purpose. Whether we know it or not, we're a conduit for the universe. Material is allowed through us. If we are a clear channel, our intentions reflect the intentions of the cosmos. Most creators think of themselves as the conductor of the orchestra. If we zoom out of our small view of reality, we function more as an instrumentalist in a much larger symphony the universe is orchestrating. We may not have a great understanding of what this magnum opus is because we only see the small part we play. The bee, attracted by the scent of the flower, lands on one, then another, inadvertently enabling reproduction by pollinating. Should the bee go extinct, not just flowers, but birds, small mammals, and humans would likely cease to exist. It's fair to assume the bee doesn't know its role in this interconnected puzzle in preserving the balance of nature. The be is simply being. In the same way, the total output of human creativity in all its kaleidoscopic breadth pieces together the fabric forming our culture. The underlying intention of our work is the aspect allowing it to fit neatly into this fabric. Rarely, if ever, do we know the grand intention. Yet, if we surrender to the creative impulse, our singular piece of the puzzle takes its proper shape. Intention is all there is. The work is a reminder. This is one of the tougher chapters, I think. I don't really understand what he's saying here. He's saying intention is all there is? I mean, it flows with some of the other things he said of like creativity doesn't come from a person. It's about like listening into the universe and listening to the people around you, listening into how you feel. And so creativity is like something that flows through us. It doesn't like necessarily come from one person's imagination and they're so great and so imaginative and so creative. It's about being connected to a greater whole. And like, and we've read about that in like previous chapters here. Compile Swift says, very true. The journey is an all-important part of any process. Yeah, 100%. I do like how he says not all projects take time, but they do take a lifetime. Of like sometimes you can think a really long time about a project, and when you go to sit down to do it, it just like comes out of you just like that. I do like what he says like towards the end. Like most creators think of themselves as the conductor of the orchestra. I guess I don't know. I just have so much like so many ideas flowing through me. Like I can't get it all out in time. Like I feel like limited by time. I'm not sure I think of myself as the conductor though. But I do know kind of what he's talking about because of course Rick Rubin worked in the music industry for a long time and has definitely worked with let's just say many rock stars are maybe known to have a bit of an ego. So I think that's what he's talking about there. I guess I'm not sure what he means here by intention. Remove intention and all that's left is an ornamental shell. I mean, maybe it's related to like what we've said earlier on stream of like, should I use React Native? Should I use native code? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, what works for you? Like, that's kind of the line that I've always said. And I guess he's saying remove intention. All that's left is the ornamental shell. Like, if there's no intention behind your choice, then maybe that's what he means. Like, what's your intention behind choosing your technologies? I know that's like very important to Rick Rubin. Like his stated goal in helping musicians make music is helping them understand the decisions that they're making, not whether they're good or bad, just knowing about them and do they like that decision or would they rather do something else there. Okay, so if that's what he's talking about, then how does that fit with the other things? I guess he starts off with the story about like getting water from a well and it's time consuming, but the guy who's doing it, who's getting the water, likes doing it because he's like has something to focus on, kind of like a yoga stretch or a martial arts pose or like a meditation. And to read back to it, the guy getting water says, if I put so little care and time into it, what might the water taste like? It couldn't possibly taste as good. And I mean, I know that. Like nothing tastes as good as the food that you yourself make for yourself. Cause you know what you like, and 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 the work you did just makes it taste all that much yummier, I think. I guess I just don't understand how intention relates to that opening story about the getting water from the well though. Like what's wrong with the making it easier? Like yes, fresh chopped garlic tastes better than garlic from the jar. But like what does intention have to do with that? Compile Swift says, and also I think it's the effect that makes the result. Oh, you mean like food tastes better when it's made with love? Like that kind of a thing? It's fair to assume, he writes, that the bee doesn't know its role in this interconnected puzzle in preserving the balance of nature. The bee is simply being. Yeah, and I guess us as creators, we see a project from start to finish, and hopefully it helps people. Hopefully it drives humanity forward, drives innovation forward. But we don't really know. I don't know if FQauth is actually going to help someone. So far, I don't think anyone's using it. I'm not even using it yet. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Compile Swift says, kinda. I mean, the effort I put in makes the result all the richer. For example, we can buy apps or we can make them. Both have the end results, but one helps us expand. Ooh, I like that. But one helps us expand. And expand in many different directions. Like we expand our abilities as a creator, but also when we make our own app, it expands the available pool of apps. That if there's 15 to do apps and you can't find the one that works for you, you add your 16th in, and now there's 16 apps for other people to choose from that will maybe work for them a little bit better. Yeah, so expands us, expands others. Compile Swift says, and an appreciation for others that made theirs and what it takes. Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, when talking about keyboards, like all the people that like made the first like split keyboards, made the first ergonomic low profile keyboards, made the first like sculpted keyboards, like really appreciating what they did and how they moved us from 0 to 1. And now we have this like Cambrian explosion of open source keyboards to choose from of all different build qualities. And a lot of this is like enabled by like 3D printing. So it's like so much easier to try out a new form. And then the forms that work get made out of aluminum and like more solid material than just printed plastic. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's really cool, dude. I guess I'm still struggling with like what he means as intention. So I guess towards the end here, he writes, the underlying intention of our work is the aspect allowing it to fit neatly into this fabric. Rarely, if ever, do we know the grand intention, yet if we surrender to the creative impulse, a singular piece of the puzzle takes its proper shape. Yeah. Yeah, maybe like that keyboards thing is like unlocking it for me of like I am intending to take care of my wrists because they were hurting like hell. And now I think I've helped other people like consider where they are in their own keyboard journey and helping others expand their understanding of what's out there as far as beautiful ergonomic keyboards. So that intention of care for my wrists is now spreading a little bit. And it's like a different kind of individuality. It's an individuality that like expands the capabilities of others. It's not an individuality where I'm a hermit and like hating on everyone else and uh being closed off to the needs and reactions of others. It's an expanding kind of individuality by that intention of self-care. Interesting. Yeah, usually like all these chapters so far have been like, oh, I know exactly what he's talking about and here's how it relates to me. This one I had to like think through a little bit to understand what he means by intention. And I guess I found a meaning for me, but I guess I'm not sure I still know exactly what what he means. Cuz like how does so if I say the keyboards of like taking care of my wrists, the self-care there and these things work for my wrists and these things don't. Like that kind of self listening and self care is expanding the capabilities of the people around me. Like, how does that relate to the story that he starts with about getting water from a well and doing it, quote unquote, the hard way? To read from that section again, I think I'm going to keep doing it the way I always have. I really have to think about each movement, and there's a great deal of care that goes into doing it right. Imagine if I were to use the pulley, it would become easy, and I might even start thinking about something else while doing it. If I put so little care and time into it, what might the water taste like? It couldn't possibly taste as good. It's like I get it at a visceral level, but like my brain doesn't get it yet, I guess. Compile Swift says, well, I think doing something the easy way makes us less aware of the effort and focus put into doing something the way we have been doing it. And eventually we become lazy when it comes to paying attention to our surroundings. Okay, this that's really interesting. That's really helpful because of course my gut reaction is like, but I make apps to make people's lives easier. I want to make it easier for people, which is true, but I guess my competition is, for example, with the Subway app, is other Subway apps who perhaps have some negative intention around their design choices. Or I don't want to say negative, I don't actually know their intentions, but I guess I perceive it as negative, and I'm able to make an app with a positive intention, make it super easy, just tap on the map and see the train times, and I find that so much easier and so much more right, I guess, for how a Subway app should look and work. And my subway app like saves the latest feed, so you have something to look at in the tunnel when you don't have a cell signal. And as far as I know, other subway apps still don't do that. Intention.